lot of families experience what we refer to as anticipatory grief. They know that their loved one is in an end-of-life situation, and so they're already grieving the expectation of the end of that loved one's life. And a lot of times that's a difficult thing to process, and so sometimes they're very hesitant to even go the hospice route because they feel like, oh, if I put my loved one on hospice, it means that I'm giving up on them or whatever. And at the same time, we tell them, not at all. We affirm life right up until the end. But we are going to help them through that process and come alongside them through that process and walk with them through that process. We have social workers, chaplains that visit with our families in addition to our nurses and aides. And so they're a part of that process in being, in partnership with the families as they care for their loved ones, getting them ready for the time that person does pass away. And then, like you said, when that happens, we're still there. We don't just pull out of the situation because their loved one has passed. We continue caring for the family. We offer grief support services. We have grief counseling that we offer. We have grief groups that meet that people can attend. We follow up with our families on a regular basis, in person, by phone. We send cards multiple times, especially at birthdays and holidays and things of that nature, because we recognize that grieving process is just that. It's a process. It's not a one-time event that a person gets over. It's a process that can last for years. And so we recognize that, and we want to walk alongside people in that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that was my follow-up question there is, and of course there's all those services per se. What may be like an example of you guys reaching out to them, and maybe what's one of their struggles that they have related to you guys?
Well, one of the things that we recognize is that grief is universal. Everyone experiences or will experience grief at some point in their life, but grieving is individual. So how I grieve and how you grieve and how anyone else grieves is going to be individual to that person. So what we want to do is recognize that and work with them in that and help them understand that, help them talk about that, no, you're not losing your mind, that this is normal. There's a physical toll to grief. Grieving is exhausting. You think about just at the end of a day when a person's been grieving, how much more tired they are. A lot of times people have a loss of appetite, they lose weight, they have a loss of energy. There's all these things that come with that. And there are times when people think that something's really wrong, I shouldn't be going through all these different things. It's completely normal. What we want people to understand is that process is just part of the process that you go through. What we don't want them to do is turn to those negative things like substances or bad habits or self-harm or any of those things. We want them to grieve in a way that's healthy. And so we point those things out to them. We, as a company, we stay with our families. When their loved one passes, we don't just leave them, like I said, we stay with them. We oftentimes have a member of staff or members of our staff, especially our chaplains, attend a funeral of that loved one. We, again, keep in contact with that person, give them, if it's not grief support services that we offer, we give them resources in the community where they can reach out, whether it's through their church or a counseling center or some other place, just making sure that they get the help that they need and that they aren't in it alone and that they know that they're not in it alone. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes a person may want some space. That's fine. We recognize that. But we just want them to know that they're not alone, because grieving is hard enough. But grieving alone and feeling alone is even that much more difficult.
Yeah, like you said, it's universal that way. And it can have the temptation almost to make it feel like you're by yourself. So you guys being hospice care, going into care side of things too, is there a grieving aspect from the people that you guys are caring for?
Oftentimes, the person that we're caring for, the patient, is also grieving because they recognize that they're getting toward the end of life. And maybe they recognize that they're not going to get to, we've unfortunately had some younger people on service. If a person has a terminal condition and they're a younger person, and not every person on hospice is older, then those people, if they're realizing that they're not going to get to walk that daughter down the aisle, that they're not going to be able to make that high school graduation for that person, that they're not going to be at the holidays coming up or holidays in the future, they're not going to make that 50th wedding anniversary, whatever those things are, those people can grieve that as well. They can grieve learning about the diagnosis. A person who thought they were completely healthy and goes in and gets a terminal diagnosis. That's such a shock, and that initiates a grieving process for what's to come, and then the family deals with that as well. So absolutely, we come alongside them to provide hope in the midst of that. A lot of our care is just that. It's providing hope in the midst of a difficult situation.
Absolutely. And of course, it's like they're the ones going through that, but you can come alongside them. And so going to the last thing, recovery for them, is there any best words of advice? And as the same thing, I mean, you can stand by them, but it's their process that they go through. Best advice for, I guess, not going into those negative thoughts as you were talking about earlier.
I think the best advice is to just do just that, just to get involved with an organization that offers some type of support, whether it be your local church or a counseling group or your local hospice like us. The grief support services that we offer and the grief groups that meet here at our office in Longview and in our office in Carthage, they're not limited to people that we've served. Anyone in the community can come to our grief support groups that we have. That's just an important thing that we do that ties us into the community. We want to serve the community, not simply with the patients that we take care of. So that's the number one thing, is making sure a person is not trying to face it alone. We want people to understand that. And it looks different for everyone. Yeah. Some people think about that the holidays are very, very difficult the first time the holidays roll around. And that's true. But I had a lady that volunteered with us one year tell me that the holidays were actually okay because she had a lot of family around. She said it was the middle of the week and the middle of the year when absolutely nothing was going on that she often felt the loneliest. So it's different for everyone, and we want to recognize that and be sensitive to that and reach out to those people as they need us, and then let them know that we're always available for them to reach out as well. We keep in contact with people that we've cared for years ago. We do a memorial service every year, Love Lights at Christmas, and that's a great opportunity for people to come out with other people, recognize, and we're going to light up the luminaries for those individuals that they've lost. And it's just a great way for them to share those experiences with others and recognize that there are others that are going through the type of loss that they've had, and then reconnect with people who've cared for their loved ones. So again, that's the best advice I have, is to get connected with other people. Grief is a mental health crisis. Now, it might be a short-lived crisis for the individual because of the way that they're constituted and their faith and the support system they have around them. And for other people, it may be a significant mental health crisis. But we do recognize it's a crisis. We do recognize that it not only has the mental, emotional, and spiritual toll, but it does have the physical toll, which is why we advise people to get plugged into some type of a group, get plugged in, to other people helping them, so that the individual doesn't simply go through the grieving process alone. For some people, they've got such a wonderful family unit and system of support just automatically kind of baked in, that they don't need the outside resources. For others, maybe they don't have family that's local, or the family is not available to spend the type of time that they need. So those individuals need to seek out those services that we've talked about in the community. Again, we just don't want people to walk that grieving process alone. That's the main advice that I think we would give to anyone, is don't walk that journey alone. Understand that there's other people that have grieved as well and that want to come alongside you and help you through that process.
Sure. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything I didn't say that you think is necessary?
It's very easy to get into that pattern of no one understands what I'm going through, I'm completely alone. Well, no one does know exactly what a person's going through, but you're not alone in the sense that others have grieved. And when you share those experiences that you've had and learn the experiences that others have had, you realize that, and that's when the opportunity for healing takes place.